Hello, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to have you all here. We're growing in number of attendees, about 5 more attendees every second. So we'll give it another 30 seconds as everyone gets onto the call. So ladies and gentlemen, let's start. My name is Yanik Hoyles. You can see me on the screen. I'm Director of Distribution at IATA, and I want to welcome you to this first in a new series of Modern Airline Retailing webinars, what we call the tangibles. We'll try and do these about every 2 months, and we'll feature tangible developments through this transformational journey to modern airline retailing. And of course, the whole goal is to feature live testimonials of concrete, tangible events or activities that are being delivered by stakeholders across the value chain. The first session today is going to feature Air France-KLM and IATA. And I'd like my panelists to join me on the video screen just real quickly, just to prove to you all that this is a real live video with all the little glitches that may or may not go with it. So on the screen, you can see Olivier from IATA, who leads distribution strategy. Thank you for a little sign there, Olivier. And then we have Iris Taguet from Air France-KLM. She heads IT distribution. And also Stephane Ormand from Air France-KLM, who's the Vice President for distribution. So this will give you a really good overview of a bit strategic IATA components, but then from Air France-KLM, we'll get the commercial part and the IT part. And I assume they'll be agreed and fully aligned on what they're going to be saying. So, gentlemen, ladies, please just let me finish off the introduction, and we'll see you in a few minutes. Thank you. Now, today we're going to give you an overview of what's been happening in the consortium, followed by an update on the Air France-KLM journey so far, in what we call retailing with offers, which you could say is kind of NDC. But also, we'll be having their thoughts on the next steps, which is moving to through this whole transformational journey to 100% offers and orders, because that's the only way to get true customer centricity. Now, just before I hand over to Olivier, who's going to come and join me, just on the consortium, so it was set up towards the end of last summer. It came as an idea from the IATA Board of Governors, and that's about 30 airline CEOs who said, let's learn from some of the challenges we faced in the past of this, the early stages of this transformational journey. Let's get a small group of leading airlines who are already committed to thinking seriously about this journey to 100% offers and orders to true customer centricity. And let's bring them together in a group called the Consortium. There are 12 airlines or airline groups. And by the way, we do not need more airline groups in this group, because this little group is very agile, fully committed to spending time and energy and content in driving this journey forward. And this is where I stop, because this is where I'm going to ask Olivier to come in. Olivier, you can come back on the screen, please. Fantastic. So Olivier, you've been leading this on behalf of IATA with a colleague who's not on the screen, Valérie Cortas, who's done a fantastic job in project managing all this. But Olivier, can you just first, maybe I'll help you actually with the slide, just remind us who's on this consortium, just take us through the story.
Yes, indeed. So you kind of gave the highlight that there are 12 airline groups. You have the list on the screen. And I mean, if you scroll through the list, it's interesting. We have large airlines, we have smaller size airlines, we have airline groups, we have a very good geographical growth coverage across the globe. So from the Americas into East Asia, China. And why it's important to have a large coverage is because each airline has individual challenges, individual processes, and we need to combine forces to understand how we are going to move forward as airlines first, and then as the industry, and to be able to have a kind of role model. It's good to have that diversity. Now, why do the airlines? Is because I mean, there was a call for participation, and they are the ones who showed really a strong interest to move forward towards adopting full retailing, and in particular moving to processing orders. I mean, most of those airlines, they already do retailing with offers. You probably know the wording NDC. I think it's good to talk about retailing with offers, which is take the control of the offer. But when you've done that, it's not sufficient, because at one stage you have to fulfill, and then immediately you are back to retrofitting into the legacy processes we have, the PNRs, the etiquette, etc. And we understand that there's a need to change the technology. So moving to orders is actually, for the industry, changing quite significantly the technology to be able to really become modern retailer, like you would expect from any retailer you go to online. So now, in terms of what we are, let's say, doing. So the consortium is organized in work streams. We have asked each airline to say it's a give to get. So the more you contribute, the more you will get out of it. The objective is to equip the airlines with the capacity to really move forward. And move forward is what? Is build a business case, understand where this is going, talk to their management, and then engage IT providers. So what we've done is we've kind of looked at all the processes which are needed to be able to say that by the end of 2023, airlines can go out and have a full RFI or RFP with suppliers. So if you look at the processes, what do you need? First is the why, is the business case. I will explain more in detail, but why would we do that? What is the money at stake? What are the cost savings, the revenue opportunities? Then the reference architecture is the where, meaning where are we going? I mean, we are doing this for business reasons, to better serve the customer, but from a technology perspective, we are going somewhere. So the where is the reference architecture. It describes the future IT of the airlines. Probably many of you are familiar with the PSS, that is the core commercial IT. Now we are going beyond the PSS into a core IT, which is comprised of offer management, order management, and then detailed modules, and a lot of supporting systems. You need a payment gateway, you need CRM, database, we need a revenue management system, etc. And so the reference architecture is very much describing where we are going. And then the next tree is the how, the RFI framework, airline IT transition, industry transition. So the how is, there's a big question, which is how are we going to do that? I mean, it's super complex. We have legacy platforms, we need to move forward. So the how describes the vision from an airline IT, which is, what are a number of possible pathways? I start with my PSS. I want to decommission the PSS because there's a consensus today that this is the end state, decommissioning the PSS. How am I going to do that? The industry transition is to say, well, airlines don't work in isolation. They work with so the sellers, the OBTs, the TMCs, the OTAs. They work with aggregators. They actually even work with other players. They work with potentially hotels, car rental. Then they have to deliver their products with the DCS. They have to settle an account with revenue accounting. So we need this entire ecosystem to move, because tomorrow, instead of using PNRs, so which is the booking, and etiquette, which is the proof of payment, they are going to use orders. So there's a significant impact throughout the industry and throughout the ecosystem. And so looking at the industry transition is really how we take everybody on board. And then the last one is, yes.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I didn't want to, well, I've interrupted you now, Olivier, just to say that in a sec, we're going to dive into the business case, because that's quite a mature one. But as we go along, if you have any questions, please feed them. We'll have time for questions and answers at the end. And there's no doubt that Olivier, I think one of these webinars will tackle airline IT transition, industry transition, because I've already seen some questions about, well, how do I move from being a legacy carrier to a modern retailing carrier? And I guess this is going to be instrumental in doing that.
Yes. So now moving on to the next slide is really deep diving into the business case itself. So first is to say that the business case, this is a document which we have published, and it's available on IATA website, available to download. And that business case is not looking at, for those of you who know NDC, or not looking at one order or whatever, it's looking at the bigger picture, which is what is it for an airline to be a retailer, and why are we talking about becoming a retailer? And I mean, if you think about it, the airline industry is very special versus other industries. We have, as I said, PNR as etiquette instead of just one record. We have co-chair, which, I mean, you would never think of co-chair in a hotel or car rental. we have, I mean, pretty complex servicing processes. So in general, people realize that why we are where we are is because, I mean, we have added a number of systems over each other. We have added a lot of complexity. And where we are today is that there's a clear understanding. We have an increasing obsolescence of the platforms. We call them legacy platforms. The word legacy means, I mean, they are platforms being used for 10, 20 years, sometimes even more, which means that they kind of date let's say, modern IT processes like cloud, like blockchain, like web microservices, etc. So somehow those processes, they need to be, those platforms, they need to be reviewed, but also we need to review the processes behind. And the key thing is that the airline industry has built something which works very well, but it's not customer-centric. It's PNR-centric. The whole system works around PNR, the ticket. And we move to something which is really customer-centric. I mean, very simple example. Today, you have a booking with an airline, and then you have also an ancillary. You have actually two different records. And if you change your booking, then you need to change your ancillary as well, like the Wi-Fi on board or whatever. And those things are too complex. If you have everything into one record, suddenly the whole servicing is becoming super simple. The second thing is our platforms, they were not designed to be fully open. And now with the retailing with offer, with NDC, we have actually much more systems going into the airline platforms. So we have APIs, behind we have the inventory, but the platforms in general, they were not designed to have privacy by design, let's say. They were not really, they were designed to handle cybersecurity, but at the moment, the risks are increasing, also the risk of data breach. So the platforms, they need also to be modernized. The second thing is very much about the legacy processes. We are an industry which is relying a lot on many different processes that have been there for years. I mean, check-in is another one. As I say, co-chair, but there are plenty, and we have too much complexity. So this is an opportunity, thinking of a retailer, to actually very much simplify. I mean, what do you do as a retailer? You have a shopping cart, you put the item you want to buy, maybe you add a second item, and then you add a payment form, and you're done. So it's much more simple. And then you can retrieve your shopping cart, you can change things, you can modify the payment forms, etc. So we need to go to those processes. Also, what you do in general is as soon as you have done your shopping, you get a pop-up saying, people who bought this book actually also bought this book. I mean, in the airline industry, we could have the flight from Los Angeles to Denpasar, and then suddenly people who bought this service also bought, this service for your, I don't know, what surf plate or anything. I mean, so we can have a much more conversational approach with the customer. And in general, because we have complexity, we do have some kind of lack of innovation and competition. By that, we would like more new entrants into the airline industry, players coming from other industries, maybe player with a retailing experience who come to this industry and also help the airlines modernize their IT. So to conclude really on this part, which is, let's say, the soft value, but it's very important for the top management to understand that. In general, there's a clear understanding of the risk of doing nothing, and the risk of doing nothing is that yes, things works, yes, we can continue, yes, roughly we are able to serve customer, but it can be better. I mean, servicing can be better, interaction with customer can be better, pricing can be better. We have aging platform, and the industry will be at risk if it doesn't move forward.
I mean, thanks for that, Olivier. I think these soft areas, Iris from Air France-KLM in a few minutes will touch upon that, how she's been able to deal with that within such a big airline, and how do you get these messages across the sea level. That's certainly a start. And listening to you, Olivier, it just kind of confirmed that it's great that our next slide is going to be about some more hard numbers. So just take us in 4 or 5 minutes, Olivier, through this slide, please, so people can get a feel for some of the areas where cost opportunities may or may not come from, knowing that each airline, of course, will have their individual strategy. So back to you, Olivier, on this.
Yes. So there are really the two sides of the story. One side is is in general the why, and in general also how to engage top management. And then there's the money at stake, which is also for the CFO very important, because you need to build a business case. And here, I mean, in that page, the objective is just to inspire airlines, because this is just the key dimensions, but it's also industry averages. And so we have split it in three parts. And very much on the money side is first revenues and costs. So the first thing we see airlines doing is implementing dynamic pricing and bundling. So this is a combination of two things. Dynamic bundling is the fact that you create your base fare and then you add products and services based upon what you understand from the customer or the type of customer through contextualization, and to be able to tailor-make specific offers to specific customers. The dynamic pricing second part is what we call the indefinite price curve. And the indefinite price curve is the fact that we introduce way more price points. For all the airlines in the call today, you're probably, most of you filing your fares in ATPCO. And so you create a fare at 100, a fare at 120. On top of that, you add rules with conditions for refund, change, penalties, transfer, etc. This is working pretty well, but it's rather inefficient in the sense that you have quite a big margin between the different fares. And somehow, if you have a fare at 100 and a fare at 120, and through AI, you understand that the customer wants to pay 119, then if he buys the 100, you've kind of potentially lost an opportunity. And if you really want, and if you only offer the 120, then the customer is gone to competition. So, I mean, indefinite price curve is a way to better match supply and demand. The second one is ancillaries. I think there's a huge opportunity to increase the sale of ancillaries. There's a very simple KPI here. We just look at airlines, what share of bookings have ancillaries in their .com direct when they interact with customer, and what is the share of ancillaries when they interact with travel agencies. And the share the gap is massive. So we're not saying we can completely bridge the gap, but part of it certainly. So, and when we say ancillaries, it's both airlines, it's lounge access, Wi-Fi on board, etc., or non-airline. I mean, and you collect then a fee for the service, relinking to car rental, to hotels, etc. So there are many opportunities there. On the cost saving, that's where, I mean, there are a lot of let's say, discussions in the industry because things are really emerging. We have tangible elements to say that on the distribution side, because we have opened up more competition, we have new aggregators, there's an opportunity to renegotiate a number of contracts on the distribution side, and a number of airlines have been public about the fact that they have done some savings. On top of that, some airlines now have changed models, maybe removing some content, maybe adding surcharges, etc. So we see some progress on or some evolutions, let's say, on the distribution side. On the IT platforms, this is where we have the complexity, because on one side, the airlines, they have to invest. So truly, I mean, to go towards 100% offer and order management, we need investment, we need focus, we need understanding, we need teams. But at the same time, there are opportunities, strong opportunity to simplify the IT. Because today we just piled up things. We had the PSS, we did booking engine for .com, we did APIs, then NDC channel, some direct connect, some via aggregators. It's about relooking at the entire platforms, having also a unique source of content. Today, sometimes you have a pricing engine in your PSS, a pricing engine in your offer management, maybe a pricing engine in your .com. So you need to simplify all of that, and IT simplification will provide a lot of savings. Then we are going to have savings on revenue accounting, because no more reconciliation, simplified interlining, savings also on interlining, revenue accounting, intermodal also is going to be easier, servicing as well, as I explained before. And I think one very interesting findings we had with the Consortium Airlines is that in many ways, they manage to do things with their IT. They have very creative IT people, and they say, I need to do this, and IT is able to do it, but with a lot of workarounds and just adding an extra complexity. So we just want platforms that are able by design to do what we need to do without having to build those workarounds. And to finish, the last one is we also need to think differently when we build business case. Certainly, the dollar value is important, but $1 value which is more difficult to measure is, for example, the NPS, Net Promoter Score. So how customers want to come again because they had a nice experience. But we have other elements, is the value of data. I mean, how do you put that in a business case? It's important. Data ownership, data control, and what you do with the data. Then there's the value of real-time processing of the data. Very simply, today, when we finish the boarding, flight departs, and after 2-3 weeks, we know how much money we made. With order management, the information flows downstream immediately to the operation systems, flows downstream to revenue accounting, back upstream to your order management. You know exactly real time how much money you have. So there are a lot of things that we say for each airline. I mean, think it over. What is the value of the real-time data flow? What is the value of NPS? And last but not least, and I conclude with that, there's also payment, which today in our GDS world, let's say, processes when the GDS is transmitting information to the airlines in a legacy process, they send card numbers. So the industry is kind of heavily relying on cards, and we believe there is an opportunity because of the way the standard works to process different form of payment and to open up to more what we call AFOP, so alternative payment form, and this as well contributes to the overall business case.
Thanks a lot for all that, Olivier. Two little details. I think the Net Promoter Score is a really good example of some airlines have been telling us, yeah, I've got a very strong Net Promoter Score on my e-commerce channel, and I want to be able to measure the same progression on my indirect channel. And in terms of forms of payment, it's another really good example. It doesn't sound like that, but it's just customer centricity. Because if you've got the flexibility, the technical capability to offer the right payment solution the customer wants, you've got a much greater rate of sales conversion, of course, so it's a win-win. So all this that Olivier's talked about, you can find the details in the business case document that's on IATA.org/retailing, and you can find more details on the numbers. And again, each airline will have their individual strategy, which is why now we're going to dive into one airline, Air France-KLM. So Olivier, thank you. I'll see you at the end. And Stephane, if you want to join me, that would I'd appreciate it very much. Here we go, Stephane.
Good afternoon.
So,
good morning.
Now, hopefully all this resonates to you, Stephane, what Olivier's been talking about. But could you please tell us, I read in the press, I think 6-8 weeks ago, that Air France-KLM was targeting 90% NDC sales by 2027. And can you tell us where you are on this journey today, please?
Okay. Definitely, this is a long journey, as you mentioned in the beginning. For us, it started very concretely in 2018 already, 5 years ago, even a bit more. And, it's frankly more complex and more definitely difficult than what we could have expected. We have, I think, collectively a bit underestimated the complexity of the ecosystem that we are just aiming at completely redesigning, actually, technically. As you also mentioned, we started by NDC, which is the pipe between us and the external world, I would say. We are already working now on the creation of the offer itself internally, and we are aiming at completely redesigning the backend and the orders. It's definitely a super long and ambitious journey. In this move, if I come back to NDC, definitely, we are today at roughly 20-25% of adoption among our indirect sales, which is very significant. But as you can tell, it's far from being like, sorry, I'm said that my sound is a bit difficult, or
Stephane, we're okay. As long as you stay facing the camera, it's all good. If you move, you turn your head, it's not good. Stay facing the camera, it's perfect. And I just wanted to add that with 25%, that's in the context when the GDSs are not even yet ready as aggregators, hence that it definitely is a strong performance.
Yes, indeed. but it's also a performance which is mostly made today by the online travel world, leisure, which was not which was very tech savvy, which was price sensitive. So they knew since the beginning that there would be some interest in terms of pricing, which is totally the case for us because continuous pricing is now widely available on NDC as it is on the website. It means that actually more than half of our NDC bookings are booked on continuous price.
So Stephane, we lost you a little bit, but you were saying that more than half of your NDC volumes, so half of that 25%, is continuously priced already.
Absolutely. So that's the real attractor today for the switch, especially for leisure actors. Now we are at the core of like trying to really make the switch for offline, leisure and corporate. And actually, we have also a bit underestimated the difficulty that it would be to move leisure offline. And actually, if I would even summarize where we are today, the most important blocker is the change, meaning all the structures have to completely change their tooling, completely retrain their agents, and this is very heavy and it takes time and it's like, you know, socially difficult. It's a lot of work, huh? And so definitely here we are, but what we can see is that things are definitely moving on. We are not at a step where we feel that it will be blocked or something. All the players are in the toboggan, and even the big TMCs are very active with us. And for the most advanced of them, we are already at 15% adoption. TMC, pure corporate business.
So what are the so just for the non-French, toboggan is a slide. It means they're on the bus.
Yeah,
you know, the momentum.
Sorry, the slope.
It's okay. It's okay. So what are the challenges in business travel, Stephane? Because we've heard what you're doing with some TMCs, all the work that you've been doing with TMCs and the GDS. What are being the big hurdles to get business travel in this journey?
For sure, the fact that it redesigns completely their own systems and ecosystem internally. Yeah? If I'm talking about the big TMCs, okay, first lever, probably the functionalities. I mean, more than the leisure world, they need to have a very wide scope of functionalities available. It means that they need to have some quite advanced refund functionalities, ability to read the history of the orders, ability to easily rebook in hard situation like in involuntary rebooking, as we call it. And they need on their side to connect what we are proposing to them via an aggregator today, not via GDS anymore. They need to connect this to their legacy backends, you know, and all the systems that are allowing them to provide the billing to the corporate, to provide to follow the corporate staff around the world, things like that. And this is of course quite heavy, and it's just taking time actually. But again, they are on it. They are dedicated to it. I mean, they are dedicated. They are committed to it. Yep. And yes, we can see not the light at the end of the tunnel yet, but we can see that we are going forward.
Stephane, so you're talking about TMCs who are right now the category TMC you talked about are those who really rely on the GDS, for whom it has a massive impact. They've got to wait for the GDS, change all their systems and processes. Are there any other TMCs out there? You said 15%. You're talking about a reasonable progression with some TMCs already. So are there some who are already more technically agile?
Yeah, definitely. And actually, what is making the difference today is their level of, let's say, online, business. The online business is definitely easier. The offline part of it is immediately a different world. They have to manage the change at that level. This is what takes time. And I'm not even talking about, content, things like that. They are interested. They know that it's a bit better. That's not the key point. The key point today is to be able to provide an end-to-end system, meaning us plus the aggregator, plus the TMC internal system, plus potentially the SBT, which is providing a quite acceptable range of functionalities, and then on their side they have to train everybody to that.
Great. So Stephane, can you give me a couple of examples of the benefits, because all this ultimately is for the customer. There's a lot of impatience, it's taking a long time, but ultimately the goal of all this is for the industry to be more customer centric, either directly or with their partners, as you described, the travel agents, whether it be business or leisure. Could you give a couple of concrete examples what today Air France-KLM customers may be seeing thanks to NDC that they were not able to see before through the indirect channel?
Okay, clearly, and far beyond all the other perks, the continuous pricing is the most important one, because it's just like another world of prices. Then honestly, the rest of the offer itself is still a bit sophisticated to be easily implemented by the ecosystem, by the aggregators in particular. So we are definitely having some bundles that are working, the seat bundles. We are hardly working on the SAF bundle for the sustainable aviation fuel that we will provide, that we already have in our API, but that will be provided by some aggregators in autumn. And we are, of course, working on a bunch of other potential bundles that will come after. That's the bundle is really characteristic of what is bringing this NDC technology, meaning being able to really customize, like personalize a lot more the offer than what it was before. And I would add another perk, which is the fact that in terms of interfaces, usually on NDC, and when things are well implemented in a travel agent company, things are super easy to do. Actually, a lot of things are really internet-based. It's clearer, it's simpler, it's more automatized. There are no calculation of refunds or rebooking to be done. It's kind of much easier to implement in a new structure, but it's kind of difficult to implement in a structure with a big legacy.
Yeah, so essentially what you're saying is that ultimately productivity for the sellers will be better than it was before. So again, that includes servicing. You're talking about changes, cancellation, refunds, etc.
Yes.
Stephane, one last question before I ask Iris to come and join me is we get questions from airlines in the area of payment settlement. Can you just share for you, like using the BSP, is that smooth in the world of NDC? Are there big differences? How do you see that?
Okay, at that stage, I can tell that payment and NDC are quite, let's say, not really related topics for us. Nevertheless, we are facing the same kind of increase of the payment bill, credit cards, actually, that the other airlines are facing. But, and we know that we have to work on it, and we know that we have the opportunity probably to use the NDC channel to try to propose some alternative modes of payment, especially on the corporate side, because on the B2C, we already push a lot of alternative mode of payments. But on the corporate side, we know that there is a big field to be harvested there. It's also a lot of, let's say, important changes for the ecosystem itself. So it's not just something that we are, pushing on our own. We need to have all the other players around the table, to have some corporations also piloting with us. That's what we do actually, even in the frame of IATA. But we are at the early stages of this. But this is indeed one of the top priorities on the table.
Great, thanks, Stephane. And just because I saw a question about BSP, the answer to that is that BSP and NDC works perfectly well.
And 100%.
Thanks for that, Stephane. So anyone's got any questions, more questions on BSP for NDC, send us an email in IATA, your regional contact, or to me, and we'll just clarify that for you. So Stephane, as a transition to Iris, you were telling me that there's some limitations to what you can do today, how far you can push this in the current context. How is fulfillment a limitation today?
Oh, it's actually a very big one, and we are spending our time to try to make the things work with a lot of workarounds that are costly, long to develop. So today, basically, our NDC is already creating a lot of orders, and all of those orders are copied into PNRs, and it makes the ecosystem completely dual, hyper complex and growing. So definitely the order path must have as soon as possible.
Great. So Stephane, the perfect transition to Iris. and Iris is going to come and save you because she's going to make it work. Iris, can you come and join us, please? So you see the weight on your shoulders, Iris, huh? So just tell me, why is this second part of the journey? So to go from what Stephane's doing, that seems pretty straightforward, but he's got this big blocker. Why is it so important to move to 100% offers and orders?
You know, the first part of the journey was NDC and dynamic pricing, and that was where the revenue lies. So this is where we embarked, and now what we see is, as you just mentioned, is the problems we're having in fulfillment. So we are making immense promise at the moment of sale, and if the journey goes seamlessly, then it's perfect. But if there's any disruption in the journey, then we enter the big blockers that we have due to legacy technology. So Stephane was just mentioning, we are creating order in the world of NDC, but everything we do after the moment of sales is done against the PNR. And that's where we sit on legacy technology and where we have limitation, because we have been very creative on the offer side. Now we need to be able really to deliver what we promised, to move to order for real. And that means changing and getting rid of all that legacy technology.
So, Iris, great. Now, just remember, well, you remember it was only half an hour, well, 20 minutes ago, so hopefully you do remember. Olivier talked to us about the business case. You guys are part of the consortium, so you participated in this. How helpful was this in your thinking through, particularly this next phase?
Well, very much, because as I mentioned, you know, the first part of that journey was easy to sell because it's additional revenue, and now we are really entering the place where the business case is much more difficult to do. There is additional potential for revenue, but there's a lot of cost savings also to identify. And you mentioned it also, there are some less tangible additional revenue, such as NPS, and we also put EPS, so the Employee Promoter Score, on that business case. So we've used the work we have done together with Consortium to really drill down, how does it look like for France-KLM? Because the work we have done with the Consortium was something that is, it needs to be tailor-made. And that's really important because not all the airlines have the same starting point. Our starting point is we are a group, we are Air France-KLM, we have a lot of RIT combined, we have also a lot of own IT systems. So this is our starting point. And we created that journey, and we also got inspired with everything we've worked in the consortium to define exactly how it's going to look like for us. So very helpful, and we just map what we have worked on and the figures we have to our reality.
Great. So I'm sure that Olivier's got a big smile on his face. So thank you for that, Iris. You talked about EPS, Employee Promoter Score. Can you just say a bit more about that? Because Olivier alluded to it, and I kind of noted down staff retention. Could you just talk a little bit more to that? How important the employee benefits could be for you?
Well, I'm just going to give one simple example. Okay, I mentioned that the problems we're having are in the servicing when something goes wrong. So just to give you a simple example, you have booked a flight with us and you have booked a specific seat, okay, extra leg room. Your flight is disrupted. There's a change of aircraft, so you're not going to have that extra leg room anymore. So you're going to go to the counter and ask for a refund for that, extra you paid. We are going to tell you, so the agency you're facing is going to tell you, I'm sorry, I cannot do it here, but please call our call center. This person in front of you, well, it's not her fault or his fault if that happened to you. And there's no mean technically that she can do it on the system she's having. So she needs to send you to the call center. From a passenger point of view, that's kind of unacceptable. I mean, you've disrupted my flight. I paid additional services. I'm not getting that services. And now you're telling me I need to call your call center, wait in line for 15 minutes to get my refund. So you're definitely going to be kind of upset. And that goes directly to the agent you're facing. And that's one of 100 examples we have like that in how we believe that changing that technology and having the possibility to refund you directly as soon as we know that your flight is disrupted, you're not getting that services, that will also release a lot of pressure that we have on our agents today.
Yeah, I think you're right, and all this resonates to me as an individual. And it's true that also you feel the pressure for the poor employees when you have a mass disruption and everything has to all the queues everywhere. Now, Iris, so talked about the importance of the journey. We talked about the usefulness of the business case. The next question for me is, this is a one we get very regularly from the airlines, which is, how do you sell this to a CEO?
Well, that's a very difficult question. I would not say we have sold this to our CEO yet. We are in that process. We're in that journey. First of all, we have 3 CEOs, so that's 3 persons to be convinced.
That's Air France-KLM, Air France-KLM.
Air France-KLM, exactly. So that's 3 times the work. And it's not only your CEOs that you need to convince, it's basically your complete C-suites. You need to understand what ticks for each of those individuals, because something is going to resonate for your CFO. That's going to be, okay, how much money can I save? Something is going to resonate to your CIO, like, okay, you know what, I'm going to simplify my IT system. I'm going to be, I'm going to work on more new technology. That would be better for attracting new talent that could come from a different industry, that could come from retailing. So, you kind of really need to understand what exactly is going to take for each and all of them. For us, there's a lot of things that sits on getting the basics right. That is, we Air France-KLM want to be an airline at core. For us, the being a travel platform is not something that resonates internally. So we're really focusing, okay, how can we make the experience of our customer as best as possible? So we're working a lot on that. I mentioned servicing, so we're working a lot on, okay, how can we make the life of customer better? That's for us. But I think, anybody that needs to do that work needs to understand what exactly is going to take for their own CEOs.
Yeah, so not an easy one, but a very, very important one. Right, let's get back to your core business, Iris. You're an IT person. When we talk about this second phase, you've got retailing with offers, you're kind of adding on an API, it's pretty straightforward, let's say. When we talk about this whole order management component, it's a massive upheaval of the airline IT. So how would you qualify this from a transition point of view? Is it something that, have you got the plan in your mind, how this is going to happen?
I wish. No, let's say we are working on building a plan. I will not call it the plan, because first of all, it's going to be a very, very long transformation. It's going to be a long journey. That journey is going to change. The technology is going to change. The proposal, the products, everything is going to change. So what we have built so far is our ideal target. And we have built it thinking, okay, if we would be creating an airline today, how would we want our system to look like? That's our ideal picture. Now we know exactly where we are today, and we are looking into, okay, what is the path to go from where we are today into that ideal picture? And what we are creating right now is the first steps. Okay, where do we believe we can get value next year or in 2025? We are working on that. We're working on defining this, also knowing that that plan might change. We might realize at the end of the year that, okay, that was not the right plan, so we will adapt. So we just want to make sure that we keep our mind open enough in a way that we can adapt to the plan. It's going to be complicated, definitely.
Yeah, so I think you're referring to the end state. So again, Olivier talked about the reference architecture that the consortium's worked on, which you've told me that you're using, the transition work you're doing, and there's no doubt you're contributing part of that, or all a part, we don't know, because some bits may be confidential, of course, in the IT transition component of the work in the consortium. And what's really important is you talk about, you've got to have short-term value creation, short-term chunks, short-term cycles that are clearly identified. They'll create value, which is critical for the business case to get it through the C-level, CFO in particular. Last question to you, Iris, before we'll go into before I'll ask Olivier and Stephane to join us so we can have Q&As with the audience, is one of the goals of all this work, particularly around the standards that we do, it's to ultimately, for the benefit of the customer, to create more competition and innovation. How do you see, or what is your view on the competitive changes, evolution of this landscape going forward?
Well, it's very interesting. We had in the last couple of weeks with the consortium presentation from 14 different vendors that are positioning themselves in the space of order management system. It's really interesting to see that we have, of course, the traditional vendors that we're used to in the airline industry, but we also have new players. I hear a lot the comparison with the retailing industry and the Amazon alike. I would say that our business is a little bit more complicated than that. It's not just, you put everything in a basket and we'll ship you stuff at one point to your house. It is not that. And there was one company comparing it to the telecom industry. and saying, you know, just look at when you guys, if you order a new internet access, and you have a box, you have an internet access, somebody needs to open your connection, I need to open your Netflix account, I need to open your all of that. And that looks a little bit more like our industry. I mean, we're selling you different services, but those services, they need to come in a specific order. And we are also having different players involved. So I would say that it will definitely open up the place for new players, new IT players from different industry. I'm not sure it's going to be super simple as just a simple retailing platform as, you know, a website with a merchant and I put 5 items in my shopping cart. It's going to be simpler. It's not going to be simple.
Okay, thank you very much, Iris. I think I liked your bit about we're special. And some people will say, oh, are we that really that special? But we are special. It's not an easy one to answer, but the same certainly both count. Olivier and Stephane, do you want to join us, please? Okay, and we're just missing Stephane. Are you there, Stephane?
Yes, I'm coming.
Oh, perfect. Fantastic. So we got a question here on the continuous pricing. What are the challenges of repricing the continuous priced bookings?
Oh, they are real. That's a good question, actually. Can I answer to this one?
Of course you can, Stephane.
Yeah, I'm not gonna give you like some miracle answers, but this is of course, yes, part of the problem. We've been very far into expansion of pricing. Rebooking is still, I mean, under construction, I would say. And so, as you know, the continuous pricing, I mean, as you might know, continuous pricing is coming from specific offer engine. I see your face, Yanik, and I feel that it's still.
Yeah, you sounds borderline. Huh?
No, I don't understand why. Like this, is it better?
Yeah, it's a bit better.
Okay, so just to say, continuous pricing is coming from a specific brick, which is an offer management system. And the rebooking is not yet completely fully available in this brick, so it's still quite partial actually. We have a bit of it working, like repricing under continuous pricing. It's still mostly done under the legacy pricing, which is a bit like a transition situation. But all the idea is to have actually the offer management system proposing not only the offer but also a re-offer.
Okay, great. So you got the plan, but the whole process is not fully built yet. But it's certainly part of the whole offer management component. Fantastic. I've got another one that might be for you as well, Stephane, which is what are the key incentives for large and smallish agents to migrate that you are providing to facilitate this transition? So how are you helping travel agents? What are levers you have to help travel agents migrate?
Well, actually, all the point is that this is indirect distribution. So it's not that we don't want to help all the travel agents. It's basically that we don't have the means. Most of the time, those travel agents are dealing with a certain aggregator. Okay. Some others are dealing directly with us, with like pumping directly our API service. And those ones are actually, I would say, the best connection to our friends in KLM. Most direct one. The support is mostly technical, okay? But actually, the travel agent, they most of the time they know what to do. It's just that it takes time because they have to make their own equation internally. It's costly. Again, there is a lot of training to be done. The economics are not exactly the same between the legacy world with like heavy incentives from the GDS to a new world where they have to find a way with the aggregators that is okay for them. It's all thing that has to be fine-tuned at their level. So the support actually is not that big between us and the travel agents directly. Where we are heavily involved, it's mostly with, let's say, the big corporations and the TMCs, because there we need to be really in a tripartite mode with aggregators and TMC to make sure that things are fixed. Otherwise, it becomes.
Great, thanks, Stephane. I think so. You said the technical support's there, the different connectivity pathways are there. And I guess the last thing that you didn't mention now, but you said earlier, is just the content as well. I guess then as an incentive is if you do connect, you get continuous pricing some of the features. I've got a question now that might be for Iris. France-KLM are aiming for 90% NDC transactions in a few years' time. Does that mean that the direct channel will also be NDC based?
No, the direct channel will not be NDC based. When we talk about 90%, we're talking about our an indirect channel. It's 90% of our indirect.
But I think the question is, will you have one central source of truth that will feed your direct channel as well as the indirect instead of having e-commerce and NDC today?
Yeah, so technically today we have already some component that are combined between our direct channel and our indirect channel, but we aim tomorrow in that transformation to have one offer management system that will serve all our channels.
Thank you for that, Iris. One for Olivier. Did you already consider the feedback from the vendor surveys or interviews in the business case?
So yes, of course, from a process perspective, we have had, I mean, those different sessions, as Iris mentioned. We've collected a lot of very, very valuable feedback. Now, the paper itself has not been updated because it's something we want to do probably in next month or next year. We actually need more feedback. Also, what is important is that we need to confront the business case, which is a kind of vision anticipation, with already some initial findings from the market. And here, I mean, we have a number of airlines, for example, who have dynamic pricing. We've heard that from France-KLM, and they start to have not a business case, but a reality, which is they have element to prove if the business case is right or wrong. So we need to do those things, which is the business case for us. It's a living document. It represents the industry ambition, but as soon as possible, you need to integrate also lessons from the last few months. And that's why we don't feel the urgency to update it right now. We prefer to do a more significant update maybe next year, early next year probably.
Okay, yeah, no, so an update on the business case, taking into account all this and the actual benefit realization, because you're right, Olivier, we're seeing more and more concrete benefit realization from the airlines, and that they're sharing more and more publicly. Question maybe for Stephane and Iris first, and maybe Olivier can complement this. What are the top challenges, just 2 or 3, yeah, really short, for the industry to adopt NDC, because the focus has been thereof recently, but some state players are still waiting. So what are the top 2 challenges that you would, Stephane?
Change management, extremely difficult, because we know the levers. The levers are the content, the functionalities, of course, a bit of economics anyway. And we know that playing only one of those levers is not working. We have to play the 3 of them. And it depends on the context, it depends on the travel agent, it depends on many things.
Say again what the 3, Stephane, the 3 are? The
content, the content that you can have in NDC and not anywhere else. I mean, except in the on the website. The functionalities, your ability to really cover what was available before, at least. And then, of course, the economics, meaning the commercials between the agent and, I mean, the cost of the distribution for us and how much it costs for the travel agents. So all that has to be played in a, let's say, relevant way to put the different players. But I would say today, the most difficult one, be given our level of, let's say, advancement on the functionalities, it's the change part.
Okay, thanks. Iris, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, from an IT point of view, I would say it's the difficult comparison between a system that is 60 years old, that is very stable. I'm talking about the GDS, but has all the functionalities developed, everything is there. The agents, they know how to use it perfectly, to a newer system that is still under development, so that doesn't have all the functionalities, that is still a work in progress. You know, you're asking agents to change from a robust system that they are used to since a long time into something that is still under development. So that's also part of the difficulties we're having.
Great. Olivier, anything you want to add to that? Challenges?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, very close to what Stephane said. I think more airline content, certainly, new types of services. The second one for me is confidence that servicing, when fully implemented, works very well and is actually better than what we had before. I mean, you can go for 100% fully automated servicing, And the third thing is still some kind of mindset shift that, I mean, the change is difficult. And what we've heard is the more it's technology, the easier it gets, the more it's people, the more difficult it becomes.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that, Olivier. So I've got two last questions. They're a little bit technical, but let's go for it. We've got 5 minutes. This might be for you, Iris. Are you considering the disruption domain as part of the order domain in the reference architecture, or do you keep it separately?
We would keep it separately because we see disruption, as Stephane mentioned it briefly, the fact that the ability to reoffer. So for us, disruption is a module that will sit between the order management system. So I need to read the order to understand what was the original order from the customer, and I need to then talk to the offer management system to propose a new offer. So that's how we see it.
Right. Thanks, Iris. And maybe just a short answer from Olivier. It's a little bit technical, but I'm sure you can deal with it, Olivier. How do we disengage from ATP code-fare filing to provide full control to the airline so it's able to offer continuous pricing?
Okay, so first, you can do continuous pricing with ATP Co by creating a number of price points and then retrofitting into ATP Co to manage things with, let's say, the next available fare, and then use all the fares. Longer term, the objective is really clearly to have a pricing engine which creates fares from scratch. And so you need fair amount, and then you need a number of business rules. Maybe they are simpler, because today, if you look at ATP Co, you have a lot of different elements in the rule. And in general, what you need is, can I change my ticket? Can I refund my ticket? And the rest are just elements that you use for pricing engine, but they don't have a value per se.
Great. Thanks, Olivier. And a last question to Stephane here. To maintain a healthy look to book is currently one of the biggest challenges for online travel agents in expanding NDC. Well, what are your views on that, Stephane? Is that a challenge for you?
Yes, it is. I would answer two things. First, it's not maybe the crazy challenge that has been presented so far. Today, I was mentioning it, maybe not, I didn't give you the figure, but 80% of our online travel agencies are already on NDC, and they are the ones who are producing the big volumes of searches, you know, and sometimes totally useless ones. And we can cope with this already. So we can't foresee an explosion of the volumes in the coming years, hopefully, at least, I mean, yeah, when we just look at this pattern. And second, but indeed, we need to extend a bit our capabilities and to probably limit the volumes anyways. In particular, I'm thinking about the tour operating, which is asking for super long requests, you know, of shopping. And we are providing, or we are working on providing, some sort of cash mechanism to allow them to do so. There is no rocket science, new other ways for the moment.
Thank you very much, Stephane. And then the last question, we got 2 or 3 questions about how do you transition a legacy carrier to a modern airline retailing carrier. I will not ask you guys that question in the last minute we have. However, hopefully the people who did ask this question, they got a pretty first, you know, some ideas of answers through this webinar. And you can know even more by going to the IATA website, iata.org/retailing. There's loads of material there to figure out how to transition to this new world of retailing with offers, delivering with orders, 100% offers and orders. So I think on that note, I'd like to give our audience 1 minute before their next meeting. And I would really like to thank all 3 panelists, Olivier from IATA, Stephane and Iris from Air France-KLM in this first edition of Modern Airline Retailing, The Tangibles. So guys, if we don't speak to you, have a great summer, and we'll be back in end of August, early September with another one. Bye everybody, thank you very much.
Bye-bye, thank you.